Hello, Playdate. This is Don.
This is Nick.
And this is Ryan.
This week we are covering Playdate news.
Recent indie releases.
And pixel paneling whatever game is in the title of today's episode.
Do you mean Bifusion?
Yes.
That's the one. All right.
You read the title of today's episode.
I did.
Great job.
I can't scroll down that fast. Thank you for listening, though. Let's get started.
Hey guys, I've got a bibbidi boop news and note for you. It's good to be back. It's so nice to see, hear, talk with both of you today.
Yes, welcome back.
Thank you.
And also, thank you, Gabe Swar, for stepping in my absence. You did a lovely job. And I don't know if Gabe is aware of this, but he is indirectly, maybe directly, responsible for me purchasing a limited run Game Boy game. I'm sorry to say that it's not his because his is no longer orderable. You can't get Bubbo Hop About or whatever the Bubbo on Game Boy is. Okay, yeah. But anyway, I found another one on there after he mentioned that, Bubbo something was coming out from Limited Run Games. And wow, I didn't even know that website existed. And then I got real excited and started throwing money at it. So in another several years, I should have a Game Boy game in my hands.
At least your expectations are realistic.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, all that to say, Gabe Swar, you rock and roll with the best of them. Thank you for coming on and being a fine replacement for me.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think I really legitimately did forget we were recording a podcast at some point because we were just relaxing and talking to him. And it was a lot of fun just talking to him. And the lack of boops just like
I was going to say,
you were
able
to stop taking notes about all the edits you needed to make.
Yeah. And when we're done recording our normal podcast, we get into just a chill mode with Ryan because he doesn't boop outside of the show.
Oh, don't wreck the magic.
Relax. Yeah.
Everybody thinks that boops are part of daily life for me. You can't spoil that. This is like Mickey Mouse taking off the head at Disneyland.
Oh,
you can't do that. Come on, Don.
Magic.
Okay, let's start over again. We're going to re-record
no.
this first part.
He's spoiling more magic. Yes. Anyway, go back. There'll be a link in the show notes to our episode 30 with Gabe Swar, the developer of Bubbo Collect, out right now in the Playdate catalog. So go back and check that one out if you missed it. And also a quick little update to something we mentioned in the last episode. I mentioned Country Quiz out on itch, that it was out, but it didn't. Like the file didn't work or whatever, and I'm not smart enough to make it work, but it works now. It's updated and it's really, really fun. So check it out. It'll like start outlining a country, and the quicker you guess what country it is, the more points you get.
Oh, that
but
sounds fun.
The way that you select the country is really smart. You don't have to like type or anything. It brings up a little window and use the crank to crank through the names of the countries. So you can crank through pretty quick. They're in alphabetical order. And then you get bonus points if you name the capital of that country. And I think that it limits the capitals to that continent to kind of
that's clever.
Because it's just bonus points. So it's pretty neat. So anyway, I think it's free if I recall. Anyway, there'll be a link in the show notes. So check out Country Quiz.
That sounds amazing. Can I change my pixel panel selection?
Yeah, we'll get on that.
Okay. Well, hey, there's other news and notes. Panic released some first-year stats. And in today's show notes, we've got a link to a lovely little Twitter graphic that says these things. 53,368 playdates were pre-ordered in the first year. Then let's talk about this, guys, because the very next stat they show is that 27,000 of them have been shipped. So they've shipped, at this point, half the orders for playdates. What are your feeling about that, guys?
I thought it was more, but that's good. I mean, I'm guessing it started slow and it's been ramping up. But yeah, I thought we were closing on the end. I thought we were in the 40,000 range.
Yeah,
that's great.
I thought we were a little closer to getting caught up than these numbers. Nick, what were your feelings?
As a teeny tiny manufacturer who makes a boutique item and ships it to places all over the world. I am
reality check.
So outrageously impressed with these numbers. These are insane. I cannot believe that they have shipped over 20,000 with a T units. That is so incredible. So 20,000 cheers for Panic.
All right, so 27,000 the first year. That's like a little over 2,000 units a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like 500 units a week. That's that's a pretty healthy clip. I guess I was thinking that since they have a dedicated factory in, what is it, Malaysia or something? Thailand? I forget.
Malaysia.
Anyway,
yeah.
I'm a horrible person. And that there would be more of them coming out. But I guess if you break it down to 500 units a week, like that sounds like a pretty healthy clip.
That's a significant number.
Yeah.
And especially since the Playdate isn't their primary business focus. These are insane numbers. So I'm very impressed. And yeah, it would obviously be better if more of them were out there and it was closer to the end. But Panic has also been doing something very smart that I've been observing, in that they go through a run and then they will pause shipping, adjust manufacturing as necessary, then resume manufacturing, and then resume shipping. And that's exactly what I do with my product as well. So I go through a run, build it, ship it, make sure everything's okay, make any adjustments that are needed, because things go in and out of stock all the time. So inventory management is insane. And especially for them, since it's not their primary focus, I'm just going to keep putting that out there because this is like a major feat.
And we should probably just mention, since we're going to anyway, drainedpinball.com.
Yes.
But let's see, I had a thought there. Oh, my follow-up thought to this about Panic and the Playdate is that I feel like for a very long time, we've had this sort of nebulous distinction of group numbers. Like group 1 has been shipped, group 2 has been whatever. And I was under the impression, and maybe I don't know what this is based on. I feel like I heard it, but maybe this is just me playing pretend with myself. I feel like group 5 was going to like get everybody caught up, and then there were going to be orders placed and units shipped immediately when that happens after group 5 was fulfilled. So when I heard group 4 was starting soon, I was like, oh, well, we must be almost ready to order and ship in, the same amount of time. But this sounds like we're maybe another year out from that happening. I mean,
it's a good question, because it's going to depend possibly on whatever supply chain issues that they've had to deal with in the previous runs. So I have a little foreknowledge there that we're going to talk about a little later in the news. But I think they ran into something fairly significant at some point and had to retool a bit. And so that obviously slows down shipments. It also changes the software side. It's wildly, wildly complicated to do what they're doing. And as I said, it'd be awesome if all of them were shipped and everything was caught up and they were ready to just kind of do piecemeal shipments, but they're not quite there yet. And it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. But they might be ramping up for much larger groups. So it could be that group 4 and 5 are much larger in quantity than group 1 through 3 were.
And it could also, I'm sorry, Don, go ahead.
That's okay. I was thinking that the groups are about 10,000 each, and it looks like with 27,000 shipped, they're about 9,000 each. And I think that maybe 6 months ago or so, around the holidays, they had said that Group 5 would be shipping around the end of this year. So it looks like they're on target to do that. If this Group 4 takes through the summer, let's say, into September maybe, that'd be around the last quarter of 2023.
Yeah, and your assumption of 10,000 per group might be accurate, because it says 27,000 shipped and Group 4 is about to ship. So maybe that's when they hit 30K, then group 4 starts. The other thing is that maybe in this first year, as Nick mentioned, production snags hit and they were able to work through them. And so maybe they are able to produce them faster the second year. I feel like that would make sense. Thinking about things positively, hopefully. But there's some other stats here that are mentioned, like the fact that there are 400 plus games available on itch.io. We've mentioned this before, but I feel like it bears repeating. That's a heck of a number. Over 400 additional games beyond the 24 you get for purchasing this thing are available. That's just absolutely bonkers. And but a stat that I feel like I should speak to personally is the one that says 40% of players sideload games. I know that it's a big goal for many developers to get into catalog, because that makes it super easy for people who have a Playdate to get it. And I thought, it'll be a nice thing, but don't most people sideload games? And in fact, they do not. Only the minority of people are sideloading games. And I feel like I should speak to this because when we started this podcast, I was very fearful of sideloading games until you guys held my hand and made it happen. And my gosh, it's so easy. There's tutorials online, and it's so worth the 2 minutes to figure out how to do it, because I have had hours and hours of fun based on sideloading games on my Playdate. So if you are part of the 60% of people who have not sideloaded a game and you own a Playdate, by golly, take it from one Luddite to another. Look up how to sideload games. It's very easy and very worth it.
Can we talk about that stat a little bit more in depth? Because I am shocked it is that high.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. I would have expected about 50% of that number. So about 20% of people would sideload. So if you think about it, that's 1 in 5 people that have a Playdate. So with 40%, that's 2 in 5, that's a lot. I mean, it's very impressive, which means that they've done a very good job of getting the word out, demystifying it, removing some of the fear around it. So Ryan, obviously you did your first sideload, you got a virus immediately. It destroyed your Playdate and your life. But then you came back from that. Everything was great. No, I mean, there's no fear like that with the Playdate so far. And it's been...
Way to put the idea in developers' minds,
yeah,
Nick.
I know.
Gosh.
I've seen what Don's been developing, and, we'll...
Ouch.
We'll get there. But at any rate, it's extremely impressive to me. Don, what do you think about that number?
40%? Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little bit on Discord. I thought it would be half of that. I was guessing in the high teens or something. But I'm wondering if this number came 40%, if that came after the catalog stats, which are also included in this first year statistics breakdown, because they are there now, and you have Recommendation Dog and the Real Steel. If those count or not, there are other places where you can sideload games besides catalog now.
Yeah, I thought there was a little disclaimer that didn't include catalog.
It says 400. I guess the itch.io is on the 400 plus games available on itch.io. It does not say specifically on the 40% of players sideloading games. I would assume that sideloading means not on catalog. That on catalog, do they consider buying a game on catalog sideloading? I thought that was something different. That sideloading was like grab a game on itch, toss it onto your sideload page, it magically appears on your Playdate.
I would agree, because to me catalog is downloading, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if that many people are okay with sideloading that, I think that's a great number. Obviously you want to see it higher, but
I think it's not enough. Maybe that means it's just
not
right.
enough. They're still missing out on a lot of games,
right?
But
400 plus, as a matter of fact.
And I'm curious to see how that number changes as more groups ship. So I would anticipate that number will go down just naturally, because more new users are going to gravitate to catalog directly. but those are future business problems, right? So,
yeah, agreed.
There's a couple more little stats here. Did people enjoy the season idea? 91% said yes, and I guess that means 9% of people are dead inside. And then there were 5 top requests for what people wanted. The top request was a game store, and they did it with catalog. Good job, huzzah! Panic! I'm so proud of you guys. The next thing is game sorting, and I think that's coming, right? Are they not working on something like that? Is that secret?
I'm sure
Did I just spoil
somebody's working
something?
on it. I don't know if you spoiled anything, but I would assume something's in the work at some point.
Yeah,
When
I
people
think
love
that's happening.
folders and game sorting, I would say kind of go together, and I'm guessing something would come at some point.
Yeah, I have a feeling they would not have published that as the number 2 request if they weren't working on it already. And then finally, it says 20,000 games are downloaded from catalog. Ooh, there you go. It says download, not sideload. 20,000 games are downloaded from catalog. And there's like a couple dozen games available now. So I guess there's like maybe 1,000 downloads roughly for each game. Also, there's
I sort of. I noticed that Squid God posted the sales numbers for what is the game he made, that Bullet Heaven game?
Corefault.
Corefault, yes. It was roughly like 1,500 sales on catalog and 1,500 on itch. And I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but yeah. So if that game is one of them, and you said roughly 1,000 each, maybe you're right, Ryan. Maybe it's roughly in that ballpark for each one, which would be really cool.
That would be cool. I hope that's the case, and I hope it continues to grow.
Maybe it was dollars, and I'm way off.
While you're looking that up, I'll keep flapping my yapper because I love stats. So 20,000 games downloaded from catalog means roughly each person has downloaded a catalog game that has a play date. There's 27,000 out there, 20,000 games downloaded. So not everyone has downloaded a game from catalog who has a play date. The other thing that I'm curious about here is, does that 20,000 number include Recommendation Dog and Real Steel? So if that's the case, and everybody who has a play date downloaded one of those games, then that means nobody's purchased anything from catalog. So I'm very curious about how Recommendation Dog and Real Steel fit into that 20,000 number, and what that means for the other games, because potentially that could mean a whole lot less sales for games that are on catalog than what we're assuming is maybe roughly in a 1,000 download range.
I don't think that's the case. So in any storefront like that, you're going to have enthusiast users and people who are like plugged into it. So there's people who knew, like we did, that there were going to be 2 free games, at the launch of catalog. You go in, you download your free games, you make a purchase or 2. So those are going to be the core group that are using catalog. Then there's going to be the group who never sideload, bought a playdate, never use it, and obviously they're not going to be adding to the catalog stats. So I think the deal is not that 20,000 individual people have used this. I think the number is actually quite a bit lower, which makes sense because the service is almost brand new. So I think the numbers are probably higher, but they're also skewed because it's kind of the launch window of catalog, and people are going to be more plugged into playing around with it that are already plugged into the ecosystem. So the real test for catalog is what happens when the next group of Playdate owners receives their Playdates, because they will have it from the start.
It's only going to go up and up. I think there's
Correct.
a lot of Playdates collecting dust, I hate to say. I think a lot of the early adopters didn't get into the groove. And I know a lot of podcasters we listen to say they haven't touched it in a year, haven't touched it in 6 months.
I don't understand how that's possible, but
I
yeah.
know it's not fun to hear that, but they have Steam Decks and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And they just didn't get into the groove the way we did.
Mhm.
And so I think there are, maybe it's 1,000, I don't know, but there's a certain number just sitting there where they haven't experienced catalog yet.
Right.
And so the numbers for people like you and I, we have made multiple purchases or whatever. There's more of us probably that have made multiple visits to the catalog store.
And like you said, new users who are in group 4, group 5
Right.
and beyond, they're going to be native catalog users. They're just not going to have a Playdate experience without it. So
You're
anyway,
going to see that light flashing every week for
Yeah.
3 months, but then they also see that catalog light flashing on Tuesdays
Yeah.
instead of just the Mondays. Just to clarify what I said earlier about Core Fault by Squidgog Dev, his post, it said it made $1,961 on itch so far and $1,394 on catalog so far. It came out
say 9,000 on itch?
1,961.
Okay. Do you mind saying those numbers one more time? I'm sorry.
$1,961 on itch, $1,394 on catalog.
Interesting.
So just shy of 2,000 on itch and just shy of 1,400 on catalog. Now it's been out on itch maybe 6 weeks longer than it was on catalog. And I don't know what the breakdown is on how much itch takes, but we do know that catalog takes, 20% or something like that?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. So
That's
those are
crazy
his
reasonable.
earnings. And he does say that's his earnings along with Dave Makes, who co-developed the game with him. So that wasn't 1,400 sales units. That was sales dollars. So just wanted to clarify that, which is roughly 200 copies at $6 each.
Nice.
Cool. All right. So many numbers. Do you guys want to talk about this anymore?
No,
or are
no,
we done with
let's-
this graphic?
Yeah, let's move on.
let's
Let's
button it
move
up.
on.
Because that was the first heebie-doob news and note, which means we have a bunch more to go. The next
Oh,
one,
Lord.
the next, have I mentioned it's good to see you guys again?
Yeah.
That's
The
20
next
minutes
one,
left.
the next one is a little teaser for everyone listening to look forward to a special interview episode coming up in a couple weeks. It's going to be with a surprise guest. We're going to keep it a surprise from you. But just to let you know, in 2 weeks, a few of us will not be present. A couple of us will not be present on the show, but a special new someone will be. So tune in for that. Totally worth it. Next news and note is
Yeah, I wanted to
written
mention.
by not me.
Yes, Play Jam 3 starts in 5 days from today. I should mention that we are recording on a Sunday, not on our regular Tuesday, so we will not have the new catalog releases mentioned in this episode. But Play Jam 3 by possibly Axolotl starts in a couple days. There are over 285 participants so far. Yeah, this is massive. So if you want to get in there, there will be a link in the show notes. Hop in there, and you do not have to have a play date to participate. You can create one via Pulp and the SDK. So hop in there. There's been a lot of really cool games that have come out and become full-fledged games in the itch store. So hop on there.
Okay, I just want to chime in here for a second because I can't get enough of myself talking. There is a potential for this Play Jam to double the first year of itch releases. That's nuts. That's nuts. They're so close to 300 already. If they got a few more participants, 400. Oh my God. That's insane. So
did you just say 100 participants in a game jam was a few more?
I sure did. I mean,
Okay.
It's only a third more than what they've got already. They can do a third more and then double our games, right? Come on, possibly Axolotl. You got it in you.
So we're committing right now to each reviewing 100 games, right?
Yeah.
Hit 300.
Mm-hmm.
Next taking 100, Ryan's doing 100, right? Yeah.
Sounds good.
How about that next news and note?
Next news and note is Ryan's, but it says
what? It? Oh, hey!
We don't know that this is confirmed, do we?
I mean, it was confirmed to me.
Okay,
Should
all right,
we
Ryan.
wait?
All right, Ryan.
Okay. everyone can blame me, but Generations is going to be in the May 23rd catalog drop. I mentioned this because it was mentioned to me, and also because next episode we're not going to have our news and notes to tell you that it dropped. So at least we know that one's coming out.
I have
At least
so
I
many
hear.
boops to
I
edit
hear.
out.
I hear it's coming out.
Yes. Okay.
All right. I did
so
not
look
write the
forward to
rest
that.
of the news and notes.
We got a note from Jamote that Mio Plus is coming out on May 10th. It is sort of a Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario. Super Mario Brothers, not Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers homage. So that is coming to itch on May 10th. So keep an eye out for that.
So it's a side-scrolling platformer and not a single-screen arcade.
Correct. Yes. I played an early version of it about a month ago, and I know they've been working on it since. So keep an eye out.
Cool.
Yes.
Nice work, Jamote.
Yeah.
Yes. And then on July 4th, there will be the Tiny Yellow Machine first Playdate Community Direct, but he's taking signups right now. So there'll be a link to the signup form in our show notes. Basically, you fill out the Google Doc if you're a dev or someone in the community that has something you think you would like to share on the Direct. There's a lot of rules and, well, not rules, but there's a lot of guidelines that you need to check out in the form here on how long the submission should be, et cetera, et cetera. So take a look at that, but it's going to be streamed on July 4th.
So are we making a huge trailer?
Nick is committing to making a huge trailer. Yes, Ryan.
Somebody please unconfuse me. What the heck is a direct? What does this even mean?
So old. Yes.
It's an advertising vehicle that's used by Nintendo specifically, and it's how they promote different types of games. So they might have a direct that focuses on their own first-party games, but they also have these directs which focus on indie games. And they've been a wildly popular way to display indie games in a simple to consume about 30-minute video. I don't know what the runtime is on plan for this one. Do you have any idea, Don?
I'm not sure. It's like Comic-Con, Ryan, how like they make a bunch of announcements at Comic-Con.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that,
same
but for
idea.
Playdate stuff.
All right, now I understand. Thank you. So basically it's video stuff. And so if we wanted to, like, I don't know, advertise our show, we could make a video for Hello Playdate podcast and
we'll talk
send
about
it
it.
in and they'd splice it in.
Yeah,
They would. They'd splice it in, right?
If we
Right?
announce Ryan's replacement and we make like a big trailer,
Zero
Nicolas
boop.
Cage is going to be replacing him or something, that would probably be noteworthy.
Listen to the Negative Boop Show.
Nobody would tune in.
Well, anyway, that's very exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Tiny Yellow Machine Playdate Community Direct. And that's on July the 4th.
And I'm looking to find out what a direct is. Good job, Gant, putting this together. This is very cool, sincerely.
Yes, definitely looking forward to that. Nick, you drive the bus on the next note here.
So I know that we're all signed up for Playdate developer updates. We're all on the mailing list. We all get those emails, right, guys? Yeah. Anyway, I'm signed up for that. And I received a very interesting email, and I've been scouring this. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn.
It was on the Playdate Squad Discord. You're saying.
Was it? Okay. Whew. I've been kind of sweating this. So,
no, you're
good. Because it's a pretty big deal. So there is a 2.0 version of the SDK, which is releasing soon. SDK stands for Software Development Kit. And this is a major bump in version number, which usually brings along new functionality and new features. So that's very exciting just from the version numbering side. And I've been, kind of thinking about what that might bring. But Panic provided some guidance for this upcoming SDK. And there's to-do items if you have made a game for the Playdate that uses the C SDK. It says OS 2.0 has a new PDX file format in order to support some revision B changes they've made to upcoming hardware. and they made those
Right.
changes to address supply chain issues. So they had to rewrite the Playdate OS to support these changes to the hardware. Now, the trick for this, and one of the reasons why I'm so super impressed with what Panic has done so far, is that they have a huge challenge in that, because if you have a new hardware revision, you have to make sure that your updates and operating system are compatible with the old version as well as the new version. So they've done this, they've cracked the code, and they're releasing this SDK 2.0 to address this. And they call it OS 2.0 as well. So again, if you've made a game that uses the C SDK, you'll need to recompile it with the new 2.0 SDK in order for it to run on revision B Playdate hardware. So this only applies to games written in C. If you have any C code in your Playdate game, you'll need to recompile that.
Then you're hosed.
Not hosed. They are providing an upgrade path, and your game will continue to function, apparently, on the existing Playdate hardware, but any new Playdate hardware that is sent out, I'm assuming for Group 4 and Group 5, will need your game recompiled, or else it will not run. That's a pretty low bar. So you go into your compiler of choice and you say, recompile this thing, and then you relink it. In fact, the SDK, I think it's been a minute. I think it automates a goodly chunk of that task and creates that new PDX file that you can sideload directly. So anyway, it's a fairly simple task, but it needs to be done. So big, huge klaxons going off, warning alarms. You need to recompile once the 2.0 SDK comes out. If your game was written in Lua or Pulp, you don't need to do anything. It'll just work. So nothing needs to change at all with Lua or Pulp games. It's only C games.
Just message Nick if you have any questions.
They also revealed something that is really exciting for Don and me, but mostly for Don. And that is that they're adding a new launcher list view.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of the cards that we know and love, and if you're like me, you have 250,000 of these cards that you're flipping through on a daily basis. So having a list view is going to be amazing, and you'll be able to access it directly through the menu, and you can switch between card and list mode, and that's very exciting. So as part of that, they're also adding a new icon type that you will have to add to your game. So even if you've made a game that uses Lua or Pulp, you'll need to add this new icon and then push an update. So even though that doesn't impact recompiling your game, or you don't have to make a new PDX file if you have a Lua or Pulp game, you'll probably want to do so, or else you will not have this cool custom icon in list view. So if you're a Pulp or Lua dev, and especially if you're a C dev, you'll want to make a couple of quick changes and push an update for your game. So they have a beta that's available to download today of the 2.0 SDK. And you can use that to make sure that your recompilation works fine, everything functions, things work smoothly, and so on. But they've asked you not to publish the updated game until the new OS is out, at which point they'll email you. If you publish it now, it won't run on existing OS 1.0 playdates.
Cool.
Okay, so that's a huge amount of technical stuff for Don and Ryan. Sorry.
I have a question, but I thought I saw Don's wheels spinning. Don, did you want to say something first?
No.
Okay. So my question is, Nick was mentioning this whole list view thing and how that was going to be very interesting to him and Don. My question is, what's wrong with me? I'm very interested in list
Where
view.
to begin?
Yeah.
Hour 2 of the show begins.
So list view obviously reduces the amount of visible art and also reduces the amount of movable art. So Ryan, for those who are not familiar enough with him through this podcast, is a huge animated GIF fan. That's his primary and only means of communication.
Outside of this podcast.
So the boops, if you can just imagine, those are him sending GIFs. You'll be right on with what's going on. So Ryan, I don't know if list view is going to be for you or not, but the option's there.
Okay, I understand now. The other thing I wanted to follow up with is, for anyone wondering, a klaxon is a loud electric horn. I didn't know that.
Did you just search that? Okay.
I had to, yes. But in all sincerity, Nick, I am so glad that you are a part of this show so that you can add some reliable information.
I don't know about reliable.
If this were up to Don and Don, I don't know about you. I certainly could not have held a candle to you with regard to the SDK and the PDX and the CBAs and the XYZs that you were just talking about with regard to development. So thank you for demystifying that. If I was developing something, I think I would have been very worried, but I don't develop. But it sounds like it's a relatively easy change for developers to recompile their C games in order to make them functional on this new operating system.
It's essentially one command. So
that sounds easy to me.
Can't
Who does not do any programming at all.
I'll send you the command after.
Okay. Yeah. I'll compile my non-game. But thank you sincerely for going through all that. That was sincerely very interesting.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Nick was worried. He told us about this and he's like, oh, nobody's going to want to know about it. Yes, I'm interested even hearing it the second time. That was great.
And you learned a new word.
Klaxon.
Fantastic.
Next Tech Beat with Nick.
Well, hey, guess what, guys? We're 35 minutes into the show and we're just finishing our news and notes section, which means it's time for indie inventory.
Yeah, this will be a quick one. Don't forget to review and rate all the games that we talk about.
Yep.
First one up from One Damned Band. It's a point-and-click adventure, Nick, called Lunchtime.
Whoa. Okay.
It's a point-and-click time management sim RPG, and he said he wasn't sure if it was ready to go, but he pushed it out anyway. It is free to download. It looks pretty cool, so check that one out. Next up is I'm Scared of My Girlfriend by Squishy Moss. This one is adults only. I have not played it. I don't know. I also cannot read the description on air. It is adults only. It takes about 20 minutes to play, and it is name your own price. And then last up from Nino, who made Gravity Express. This is MIDI Master Preview. Name your own price. It is a tool for mastering MIDI files. So this just came out today, so I thought it was worth mentioning. You can play your MIDI files using the Playdate synthesizer instruments. So pretty cool.
It's not just synthesized instruments. It's also 3 sampled instruments, 2 drum kits, and a choir
included.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's
I missed
awesome.
the klaxon.
Klaxon free so far. Maybe you'll get an update though.
You can simulate it with the synthesizer.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic. So
all right, Don,
Lightload. Check them out.
Thank you for compiling the indie inventory for us. The light load will make up for our excessive news and notes, which brings us to our boop pixel panel for today. So I'm driving the ship on this one. Captain Ryan is coming to you with a game that is called Bifusion. So Bifusion bills itself as Puzzle Bobble meets 2048. Now, I was familiar with Puzzle Bobble, but I don't know what in the world 2048 is. I looked it up, and it is essentially a game where you're matching numbers. Like if you put 2 2s together, then they turn into a 4. And if you put 2 4s together, they turn into an 8, and so on. Well, if you can imagine Puzzle Bobble or Bust a Move with those little bubbles inside them, flip it on its side so it's horizontal rather than vertical, you've essentially got Bifusion. And this game really got its hooks into me. I was searching for a game that I really wanted to share with folks, and this is the one that I arrived at. So I said, hey, Don, hey, Nick, I've got a title for us for next Pixel Panel. So essentially, you not only have a single area where you can shoot balls from, you've got 3 different slots. And you don't just get your numbered balls loaded in there. You have to retrieve them as they come out of this chute. So ball comes out, it's a number 2, you sort of like harpoon it and it comes back. And then let's say you've got a number 2 ball in waiting. If another number 2 ball comes out of the chute, pardon me, then you wham-a-do it with the existing number 2 ball that you have loaded in your projectile shooter, then bam, it becomes a 4 when those 2 balls collide. If it hits without touching anything else, any other balls on the screen, any other side of the play area. So you're trying to progress, and it's sort of a score chaser like this. If you create a 4, then you get 4 points. If you are hitting 2 4s together to make an 8, then you get 8 points, and so on. So there are also a number of different skill levels. They have 3 skill levels: easy, medium, and hard. And I really enjoy the fact that they have these different skill levels, because if you're playing on easy, you've got a longer game. But if you don't have as much time to play, which, as we've gone over in the past, a bunch of 40-something dads, not a lot of time do we have. So I found myself playing on hard quite a bit. Really love the quick gameplay, short game times, and I am very interested in talking with you all about your high scores. But before we get to that, let's hear from each of you about your thoughts about the game. Don, Nick, you guys want to fight to see who goes first?
Can I clarify one thing real quick?
Please.
It's Puzzle Bobble. It says meets 2048, but 2048 is a ripoff of Threes. Threes came out in February 2014. 2048 cloned it as a free version of Threes in March of 2014. And 2048 always gets like the credit to be this type of gameplay, but Threes was a really good paid game, and 2048 ripped it off, like literally ripped it off, and became, because it was free, it became like the banner holder for this type of gameplay.
Oh, that's very interesting. I had no idea about that history.
2048. Threes is great. Anyway, when you said you played on hard, so I meant to play on hard today, and that was my focus to play it before the show, and we had a neighborhood emergency, and I didn't have time to. What is the difference in hard? Because I think what the game was missing for me was that it was too easy, and I wanted to play it on hard.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a game mechanic that I neglected to mention is the fact that you can have up to, but not including, 12 balls on the screen at one time. If you exceed that number, then your game is over. So your balls are spitting out of this tube, as I mentioned before, and basically easy, they spit out in a slow fashion so that you have time to collide balls and make combinations, or make errors and then retrieve balls and try again. Whereas in the hard mode, the balls are spitting out faster, so you have less time for error. You have to really keep moving on that hard mode to, keep your matches going and keep your game lasting and your points accruing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I noticed that like my kids asked me a question and my game ended, and I wasn't really even sure why it ended. It's because I wasn't paying attention. The balls must have just kept spitting out.
Yeah, so when you start getting close to that 12-ball threshold, and by the way, that 12-ball threshold also includes the balls that you have loaded into those 3 slots for your cannon. So if you've got 9 balls on the playfield, 3 balls in the slots, then that's 12 balls on the playfield, and your game's done. When you approach that 12-ball threshold, your screen starts to crack.
I noticed
And
that.
I thought that was a really fun visual feedback to let you know, oh, hey, you're getting close. Because otherwise, I don't know about you guys, but I would get quite involved in the game. And if that wasn't present, I would have totally forgot, oh gosh, I'm getting close to the threshold.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really great design inclusion. But anyway, I'm very interested in your thoughts on the game. What did you guys think? Aside from the fact that it credited the wrong game, Don, what do you think of this game?
Well, besides that, I did really enjoy it. I thought the controls were great. I do like the concept. I've always been like a Bust a Move, Puzzle Bobble fan. Snood even was similar. I played a lot of Snood 20 years ago. So the gameplay connected with me right away. I had a little bit of a problem reading the legibility of the numbers. Like I'd really have to like hold it up to my face. Is that a 4 or an 8 or a 2 or an 8? So I had a little bit there. And when the numbers get bigger, the balls get bigger. So it's a little bit easier. Like a 16 is a noticeably larger ball than a 2, 8, or 4. And a 32, I think, is the same size as a 16. But then I saw you guys talking on Discord about having glitches. And that's when I started getting glitches. I think when I matched the 64s, they just like disappeared. And so I never got a 128. The 264s would just like one of them would just disappear. And so I think that impeded my score progression. My highest score was like 1012 or something. I don't know. I wasn't really like trying to get a high score. I was just kind of like playing just to play. But the actual gameplay I enjoyed. I wish I had played it on hard. It sounds like that's where I would have had more fun with it, because I felt, for the most part, I felt like I just could have kept playing forever, especially with the balls disappearing. You can really just play forever. But Nick, what do you think?
So you mentioned bugs, and I hit several of them. Some you can work around, and some you can't. My Playdate crashed frequently playing this game. And one thing that I think I've noticed is that if you happen to make a match and a ball is ejected at exactly the same moment, and that ball happens to be the 12th ball in play, it doesn't reduce the balls on the playfield at exactly the same moment. And anyway, I think that might be causing one of the crashes that I experience frequently. And yes, it's always down to the wire with me. I always just wait to the last possible second, just trying to do that. So
you got your hand above the garbage disposal.
Yeah, I'm like
just hit the button,
just waiting. And the other thing that I noticed is, and Ryan had mentioned this in a little chat that we had going, but the hit detection tends to change a little bit. And I think I noticed that happened when more balls were on the screen. So it doesn't seem to happen when there's 2 or 3 or even 4 that are on the screen, but it does happen when more are on there and bouncing around and doing their thing. And essentially what it does is it makes this dead zone, which is several pixels into the playfield. So normally, like right when you get started, if you have a ball right at the edge of the playfield, you can launch another one into it and it'll take. But when this particular collision bug occurs, you just pass right through it, which is, it can be frustrating. But once you know it exists, it's a little easier to work around it. You just have to kind of plan ahead a little bit more than I was doing. And the other thing was controls. So I always have some note on controls, and I feel like I'm the controls guy who's always complaining about controls. So I'll just say that a different option for the crank portion would be helpful. So the way that the controls function is you use right on the D-pad to throw your harpoon. So you do your scorpion, get over here, and then pull it back. But that's all that's used on the D-pad. Now, I don't know. Oh, it's not. Oh, no. That's right. Because that's where you shift up and down in your different slots. Okay.
Yep.
never mind. I take it back. The controls are absolutely perfect. And
I agree.
yeah,
I thought the controls are great.
Never
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought the controls were
I thought
great.
Nick was wrong.
really,
Yeah,
I
I
forgot
was
about
really
the
waiting to
storage
see
things. So
what your beef was with the controls.
my suggestion would have been to allow up and down on the control pad to change the angle
Mm.
and fire,
Oh.
and use A or B to fire instead of left or right. But
what if you use the crank to move the slots up and down?
yeah, it's fine too. So
No winning with
These
Nick.
are all awful suggestions.
yeah, they are. Well, I forgot there were different storage spaces.
Okay.
So
All right. So I'm sorry. Were you done? I'll be quiet.
I'm never done, right?
Okay. I'll be quiet.
Constantly talking. So,
That's Nick.
yeah, I found the premise interesting. I'm a huge Bust a Move fan and Frozen Bubble. I play a lot of that. And you know, I like the idea. I like the scorpion imagery. Get over here, like I said. But I do agree with Don that it is a little difficult to read the numbers, especially in the lower numbers, because there's less distinction between them. I like the fact that they increment in powers of 2. That's something which I'm a big fan of. But the thing that gets me is that it's because your time to make the merger is killed immediately once you collide with any object, any wall, any other bubble. It does make it very challenging when you have a lot more going on the playfield. So towards the end, I realize that's the goal of the game. Ryan's making very incredulous faces as I'm talking.
But, I would not even dream of incredulous faces.
At any rate, that just makes it a little challenging, but it is not in a bad way necessarily. That said, I couldn't tell you what my scores were because the score is presented very, very small, and then it disappears as soon as you press any button. So
no, there's a leaderboard.
There's a leaderboard. Yeah,
I never clicked that.
Go to the main menu.
I refuse.
Okay, Don, what were your high scores?
Nick. Like I said, it was like 1,000 something. It was just over 1,000. I don't remember.
Okay, that is very, very good for any of the difficulty levels. And Don, from your description, I can tell that you are working with version 1.0 because I had that installed from many moons ago and I played it. And then I saw on the By Fusion itch page that there's a new version, 1.0.1. So I thought, well, surely that must be better. So I sideloaded it rather, and was playing on that. And it has, I would say, more egregious bugs than version 1.0. Oh. So I played this game a lot, and there are basically 2 main bugs that I found. We've mentioned each of them, but I'll try to make it succinct by saying one of them is the double 64s. If you collide 64s together in the 1.0.1 version, it crashes the Playdate.
Maybe that
all done.
Maybe
kaput.
Yeah. In your version.
In the 1.0 version, in the earlier version, Don, as you said, they disappear.
Okay.
Away they go. So I'm not entirely sure if that's meant to happen or if it's supposed to turn into a 128. I didn't know if the 64 collision was like, okay, well, we're not going to go triple digits, so it's just done at that point, and then it clears the ball. I do not have or am too lazy to find my old version to reinstall that over 1.0.1, but I did play that original version several times before downloading this update, and that was a thing that happened. So maybe you can, give us an update next week or next month or whatever. Anyway, I'm sure we'll forget about that. The second thing that I found that was a major bug, as Nick mentioned, was the lack of collision. Occasionally, you'll fire off a ball and it will go straight through the ball it's supposed to collide with. That was a bummer too. In my opinion, while each of these things are undesirable, they're also sort of able to be played around. Lack of collision. I found that if you miss it, typically you can pick up the other ball that ball A phased through. And if you grab that and shoot it back out at the other one, often it will collide.
Okay, I saw you guys talking about something like that. I wasn't sure what you meant.
Pro tips. Can I make a suggestion? Can we start making sure that we're all on the same version of a piece of software?
I didn't even think to update it.
I didn't think about it at all.
Nick, did you recently download this?
Yeah, I downloaded it yesterday.
Okay, then you have the most recent version. You and I are playing on the same version. Don has the old version, and I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. That was the one difference I found from playing both.
That means my assumption on Playdate crashes was incorrect, though, because it was timed when I would clear 264s. I just thought it happened to be.
Mine never crashed. My game never crashed.
End of timer. Yep. Okay. Good to know.
Okay. So anyway, and then the second major bug, the 64 crash, I just started reminding myself, okay, there's 64s. I'm not going to touch them because that's my gobble hole. That's going to end my game. So I'm not going to do that. So it became, for me, kind of an interesting strategy to avoid. And every once in a while, I'd have to come here to a 64 and just to like clear a path so I could shoot other things. Mm-hmm. And once in a while, inadvertently, I would shoot it back out so I could collect more, and it would accidentally hit the 64. Oh yeah, that's right, crasharoo. But I don't know. I still personally found this game quite fun, mm-hmm. even with a couple of major bugs. I will say that not only myself, but also a fellow Hello Playdate podcast listener, a fellow Ryan, as a matter of fact. Both of us reached out to the developer on the on his itch page for the game, and we got some mild commitments of, hey, if I maybe do an update, then maybe I'll fix these things, maybe. So that would be really killer if these two major bugs were fixed, because then this game, man, would be crazy polished. I want to follow up with something that both of you guys said about the legibility of the numbers. Personally, I found the numbers to be plenty legible. Just to add another opinion to the mix, painting a bigger picture here. I see your incredulous face, Nick. But that's how I found it. I found it pretty legible. Yeah, I don't know. Would you seem like you have a follow-up, Nick?
No, I agree. The game is very fun, and I had a lot of fun playing the different modes and seeing what the differences were, and just enjoying my time with it. So, well done, and I look forward. If the developer does make any updates, I'll be sure to get those installed, because I think it's a really fun game, and I look forward to going back to it every so often and trying to actually track my score and then best it. So
yeah.
We only have a couple minutes, but yeah, I deleted a ton of stuff like 2 months ago, and this one I didn't delete, so it made the cut. It is really fun to play, just needs those bug fixes. And my top score was 1,202.
Or 12. Fantastic.
So 12. Yeah, but I think if you can't touch the 64s, then your score would have been nerfed. So your score could have been higher.
Agreed. Which, by the way, I'll rattle off my scores just in case anybody listening would like to compete.
Here we go.
No, Don bests me. Not on the most recent version, but he bests me. So anyway, on easy, I got 976. On normal, my highest was 656. On hard, I got 672. How I bested my normal on hard, I'm not sure, but there it is anyway. If anybody would like to compete, Nick F., I'm looking at you. Go ahead and download Bifusion. Be aware of those couple major bugs. I'm not incredibly confident that they're going to be fixed anytime soon, but it doesn't mean that the game is not a load of fun.
And I did want to mention, I was complaining about the 2048 thing in threes. but it is possible this game was inspired by 2048, and they didn't play threes. I just always get salty about 2048.
Do you, Ryan? Do you remember the game "Gimme Friction, Baby" that we talked about a long time ago?
Mm-hmm.
The name rings a bell.
It reminds me of this game in a few different ways. So
yeah, play that. It's free. That one's fun. Yeah.
Is that a Playdate game or a something else game?
Playdate as well. It's another launch a thing and hit some things and make them get bigger and explode or whatever.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll have to find a link. Gimme Friction. I'll look it up and throw it in the show notes.
Then I'll have no excuse.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, good pick. I mean, it's a fun game, so good pick, Ryan.
Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
We did. Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. Very good. Well, we won't see you guys next episode. Well, one of us will. It's a big mystery as to which one of us will be on next episode. But we'll all see you again, I guess, in a month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm up next, and my Pixel Panel game is called The Legend of Zelda. What is it called? Breath of the
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. Yep, that is the
one. Copyright infringement.
Tears of the Kingdom. So play that, and we'll talk about that.
Tears of the intellectual property suit.
No, Nintendo would like nothing more than people just talk about their games nonstop.
And to be remade on Playdate, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean that other game. It was just like some other game that's not Nintendo branded. Yes.
Where can they find us, Don?
They can find us on playdatepodcast.com. We are no longer on Twitter, but we are on Discord. True? We're technically there, but I'm not checking it anymore, man.
Yeah, you are. You're just pretending.
Twitter can suck it. And we're on Discord, so come talk to us on Discord. I need to get on Mammoth or whatever. I still got to do that. But anyway, come talk to us. What's it called? Mammoth?
Nobody's getting on
Mastodon.
Nobody's getting on that. Don't get on that.
Whatever.
There's a million others.
Okay, well, Ryan's going to set us up on the million others. What is it? Blue Hole or whatever? Is that the new one? All right. See you guys later.
Want to interpret that one.
No, I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky.
So close.
Delicious ginger ale from Blue Sky. I don't know if they still make that, but that was my favorite ginger ale. All right. We'll see you guys.
Go to foramusementonlygames.com and buy stuff. Thank you.
Oh my God. I thought we did that at the start.
Nick needs to eat. All right. Love you. Bye.
Bye.